Welcome to the party!
You two rocks!
Oh, Mama
Green
Solid.
Jester has gained a level.
My thoughts are controlled by an electronic computer.
You're really in the way here.
I need food badly.
Welcome, sweet nutrients.
Move it!
As I read the comments on our videos, I am surprised to see exactly how many viewers reconnected with the game because of our content. We get heaps of comments of you guys recalling your finest reminiscence, and wishing you can experience it again. If this is you, you've come to the right place. Today, we're going to show you how to set up the game on modern hardware, and replay your childhood classic right now. Another comment I get frequently is, how do I get my game to look so good? As much as I hate this phrase, certain aspects of the game are a little dated. Specifically the display. Hardware of the era sort of required the game run in 380p and 30 FPS, but thanks to powerful tools and the wonderful works of the GDL community, we're pretty much able to run Gauntlet with all of the modern standards of today. So in addition to getting the game running, we're going to be presenting our favorite AR codes, cheats, and mods to have your game as bright and spiffy as ours. Here is a list of everything we're covering today. If you already have the game running and came just for the upgrades, feel free to skip to anything that tickles your fancy. But to those along for the long haul, let's start with some basic questions. What modern hardware can I run the game on? This video is going to assume you're running the game on Windows, but the tool that we're using, the Dolphin Emulator, can be installed on Mac and Linux as well. And everything in this video is compatible with that, but you will have to find another guide on setting up the emulator on those platforms. We'll walk you through Windows, but not Linux or Mac. You can also run this tool on your Android phone, but note that most of the enhancements we discuss later are not applicable to this version. But you can run the game on your phone with a controller. If you have an iPhone, there's not an official way to do this, but it can be done. You're just not going to learn about it here. And sadly, there is no way to play the game on modern consoles as of right now. So no PS5, Xbox S, or Switch. How strong should my PC be? It depends on what you want to do. Most laptops are pretty capable of running the game on vanilla settings, but the more settings you apply, the stronger hardware you're going to need. I will say that Jesh runs on NVIDIA GeForce 4080, and can comfortably support everything featured in this video. I say if you're interested in a feature, try it, and just monitor performance as you go. Now, let's talk about what exactly you need. For this guide, all you need is a PC, an input device, such as a controller or keyboard, and most importantly, an ISO-ROM of Gauntlet Dark Legacy. This can be acquired two ways. Firstly, you can dump your physical copy, which is the legal and official way to do this. There are several tutorials elsewhere on how to dump ROMs, so I'm not going to cover that here. Secondly, you can sail the high seas. For obvious reasons, I cannot officially condone this, nor can I direct you to any site containing the ROM, but for educational purposes, if you were to do this, ensure you get the game from a verified source, and a VPN and ad blocker are highly recommended. But which game should you get? There are several releases of Dark Legacy, PS2, Xbox, and a couple on Nintendo GameCube. There is plenty of debate on which of these is the best, but when you consider mods, emulators, and tooling, you certainly want to start with this build, the North American GameCube Rev 1. Everything going forward will assume you have this copy, as over 90% of the community content and bonus features are focused around it. The reason this GC build is the go-to is because of the Dolphin Emulator. If you don't know what an emulator is, it is a program that can run ISO ROMs. Think of it as a virtual game console. You are essentially running a Nintendo GameCube on your computer, allowing you to play the games. There are many emulators for different consoles, but the Dolphin Emulator is one of the best out there, not just for its optimization, but the bonus features it provides, such as custom textures, 60 FPS, and even online netplay, all of which will be covered today. The biggest reason someone would choose the PS2 version over the GameCube is the lack of inventory, so if that's a concern, keep watching because we have a solution. So once you have your ROM, you're going to want to open your browser and go to Dolphin's website, and you're going to want to download Dolphin. This will give you a 7-zip file. You'll need to run it through a program like WinRAR or 7-zip to extract it, but once you do, you'll be left with a folder that contains the emulator. Put this folder somewhere on your PC, somewhere where you can find it if need be. If you want, you can create a shortcut. Right-click the dolphin.exe and click Create Shortcut. This can be drugged to your desktop. Now inside your Dolphin folder, create a new folder and call it ROMs. Place your Gauntlet Rev 1 inside this folder. Now, launch the Dolphin.exe to open the emulator. Before you play, you're going to want to set up your controller. Make sure it's connected to your PC and click the controller button here. Under port 1, make sure it's set to standard controller and press the config button. Then select your device from the drop-down list. You're going to want to bind each of your buttons to your controller. To bind a button, click on it, then press the corresponding button on your controller. Once bound, the text on the button will change to match your controller input. If you've never seen a GameCube controller before, it looks like this. So just match the button in the position of whatever controller you're using. So if you're using a PlayStation controller, you'll bind X to A, square to B, circle to X, etc. Do each button. You can disregard the Z zones and the L analogs. And if Gauntlet is the only game you intend to play on here, you can also disregard the C stick as well, which would be your right analog stick. L and R are your top triggers. And instead of having a second left and right trigger, the GameCube controller has the Z button, which I would bind to the right trigger, or R2. After you have all your buttons, click close. If you want to do local co-op with friends, you'll have to do this for each of their controllers using the other ports. After that, you're going to want to set up the path to the game. Click config, click path, then add. Navigate to your ROMs folder we created earlier, and select the folder. Then you can click close. If done properly, Gauntlet Dark Legacy should appear on your homepage, and double click to launch. And there you go. You have the game running. You can play with your controller, save and load, and everything you remember growing up. And that's great. But it's sort of vanilla, and contains all the old problems you had to deal with back in the day as well. So let's get into the plot of this video. How do we make the game sparkle? The first thing I say you should do is get the 1.3 patch. The 1.3 is a community-made patch you can easily apply to your ROM. This fixes a whole bunch of bugs, adds some quality of life adjustments, and generally makes the game a lot better. Also, most all the other mods we'll be discussing here use it as a base, so you want to get this. Use the link in the description to go to Cyber's GitHub. To apply this patch, you will need an XDelta patcher tool, to which Moses provides on the 1.3's page. So, if you need it, grab it here. After you got that ready, you're going to want to go down and click on Rev 1 to Rev 13. If you have a Rev 0, get the top one. The end result patch is the same, so don't sweat if you got the wrong build. Once you have your patcher open, you're going to want to set your original file to your Gauntlet Rev. So click the folder and go to your ROM folder. Then select your Rev. For XDelta patch, set that to the 1.3 you just downloaded. Then click Apply Patch. This should trigger a download of your new patched ROM. If this fails, the most common reason is your ROM is compressed. Dolphin should say that your game is 1.36 gigabytes. If it's 1.19, that's a compressed ROM, which is not supported. You'll need to get yourself one that's the right size. Put your new patched ISO in your ROM folder, and this should add it to Dolphin. To ensure it installed correctly, it should display a blue 1.3 sticker on the banner. At this point, you can delete your vanilla RAM if you don't want it, but having both in the folder won't cause any issues at all if you prefer to keep it. Now, you've fixed most of the bugs, but there are 3 more mods I highly recommend. They're completely optional, but I definitely want to showcase them, and showcase how to set them up. Epic's Forest Patch Mod, Shop Adjustment Mod, and Treasure Nights. In the vanilla build, the Forest realm has broken difficulty stats, making the realm extremely easy. The first of these mods fixes this. The second adjusts the prices and adds new items to the shop. And the third adds A3's possessed armor bad guys to the next level, because the fact they aren't already there is absolutely sinful. The shop mod is an XDelta, so you'll want to get that one first. Use the link in the description to get the shop mod. Download the XDelta and apply it to your Rev 1.3, with the Delta Patcher tool just like before. Now, for the other two, you're going to need to make an open directory of your game. To do this, first go into your ROM folder and make a new folder. You can call it anything, but I'll call it GDL directory. Then, in the emulator, right-click on your game and click Properties. Then click File System. Right-click on the disk and select Extract Entire Disk. Then select the directory folder you just made. This might take a second, but when you're done, you'll have an open copy of your game, where you can swap out the files. In the description, get the mods you want. If you're getting both, you should have castle.wad and forest.wad. Go into your directory, then Files, then Gauntlet, wdata, and drop those two in here, replacing the originals. I recommend making a backup of the originals if you ever decide to uninstall the mods. Now, how do you launch a directory? Go to Dolphin's config menu, Path, Add, then go to your directory folder and set the path to the SYS folder. After that, a new option should appear on your homepage, a 1.3 with a file size of exactly 0 bytes. This is your directory, and you can in fact launch the game from here and play with your mods working. But if you plan on doing netplay, I suggest you go ahead and do this. Right-click the 1.3 link into your directory, click on Convert File, make sure your format is set to ISO, and then click Convert. This will compress your directory into an ISO file that you can run on Dolphin, share with your friends, and it contains all the patches and all the mods we've installed. The Rev 1.3, with these 3 mods, is the best rev you can get at present date. Everything else we'll be doing is within the emulator itself. If you launch the game now, it's not nearly as buggy, but it still looks and runs a little rough. Firstly, there are these lag spikes in the tower. This isn't your fault. This is present in the original GC copy. So let's fix that. What you want to do is go into your config menu, then advanced. Click the box under clock override, and set the bar to around 200. This will fix all of the stupid lag spikes in certain areas, which will at least give you a comfortable 30 FPS everywhere in the game. Now let's talk about texture packs. With Dolphin Emulator, you can replace textures in the game. We've made plenty of texture packs for this game that we've shared, but the most popular pack is the HD Upscale pack. This was created by running all of the game's textures through an AI upscaler. If you are comfortable with that, it's linked below. Know that it's pretty big, so we'll be using one of our own packs for this video. If you want to install a texture pack, first download and extract it. Then you want to do this. In your Windows search bar, you want to type %appdata% and click the folder that pops up. Then go into Dolphin Emulator, go into Load, then Textures, then Gun85. This is where you will place the textures you downloaded. Don't change the name, as that is how the game identifies which texture in-game to replace. After that, go into Graphics, go to Advanced, and under Utilities, click the box that says Load Custom Textures. To easily turn your packs off, just uncheck this box. You can also check Prefetch Custom Textures. This tells the game to load them during boot, so they'll load in alongside the rest of the game. After that, launch your game and see your new textures. If you got the HD pack, you'll notice as soon as the title screen. So, now your textures are pretty high res, but the game itself is still rather low res, and it's also not in widescreen, so let's mess with that. Under Graphics, you want to change the aspect ratio to Stretch to Window. This will ensure your game takes up the whole screen on whatever monitor you're playing on. Now, let's make the game look sharp. Go to your Enhancement tab. Here, you can change the resolution. What you choose depends on your hardware as well as your display. Rarely will you go above ×4, and you really don't notice a difference after that anyway. You can also mess with the texture filtering as well. So now our game looks pretty good, but it still runs at 30 FPS, which brings me to the AR and Gecko Codes, which are cheat codes, many of which fix even more bugs. First, go to your config on the emulator, and under General, make sure that Enable Cheats is checked. Then right-click your game and click Properties. Go to AR Codes. Here, you will see that some have already been included, but we're going to add some more. In the description, you will find a link to a TXT file that contains all the AR and Gecko codes we'll be using in this video. To add an AR code, click Add New Code. You can set the name to whatever you like. Simply copy and paste the code from the TXT into the code box, then click Save. This will add it to the list, where you can enable and disable it as you please. The shop style patch is definitely one that you want. Gecko codes are added the same way, you just get to add notes and a creator. Best Gecko code patch is the Magic Shop patch. This ensures the magic you buy are random, and not just all green. Another awesome code that just hit the scene is a way to disable the inventory. One of the bigger selling points of the GC build is the inventory. In Arcade, items activate upon pickup and force you to use all the duration at once, which is also true for the PlayStation 2 release. But in GC, you are able to disable items at will, saving them for future use. Most players prefer to have an inventory, but there are plenty that don't, and like the PS2's arcade style pickups. Now, we have codes to do just that, and they are player specific. In the TXT, you will find a different code for each player. If you want, you can add all of those codes to a single AR code in your emulator. This will disable the inventory for every player, or you can have each one a separate code, allowing some players to have inventories and others not. So, let's say we're playing with a group of friends. Player 2 is used to the PS2 and doesn't want to deal with the inventory. You would go into your AR codes and enable No Inventory Player 2. This would make just that person's items activate instantly. Now, we get to the holy grail of enhancements for this game, the 60 FPS code. Getting the game to run at twice the frame rate has been a rigorous quest for several years now. For those that don't play many video games, FPS stands for frames per second, and it dictates how many images the game displays every second. The higher the frame rate, the smoother the game looks. Older games are almost exclusively 30 FPS, while newer games are generally run at 60. There have been plenty of mods to get these older titles to run at 60 frames, with varying results. It all depends on how the game was developed. Some games adapt almost flawlessly, while others completely break. Today, developers have to consider frame rate, as being able to switch between 30 and 60 is a standard expectation, but in 2001 that certainly wasn't the case. So it wasn't uncommon for devs to tie certain aspects to the frame rate, and unfortunately, the Midway team did this a lot. Frame rate in Gauntlet affects animations, attacks, and even collisions. So for a long time, to play Gauntlet with 60 FPS was to play the game in fast forward. That was, until earlier this week. Out of nowhere, Discord and YouTube user Vizyne drops a new FPS code, one that is leagues above any other. Without going into detail on how it works, this code allows the game to run at 60 frames, but without speeding up the animations. This code is extremely new, and there are still some issues with it that we'll discuss. But if you ever want to see the game run as smooth as possible, this is the one to use. This code is an AR-Gecko hybrid, meaning it's really two codes that you have to enable for this to work. If you're using this code, you're also going to want to change these settings. Set overclocking to at least 300, and make sure anti-aliasing is set to none. After that, your game should play with 60 FPS. Now, let's talk about some of the current issues with this code you should be aware of. In certain areas you will get frame drops, such as in the tower. The overclocking fixes this on 30 FPS, but this code brings it back. Not really much we can do about that right now. And there is the collision issues. Sometimes when walking onto an object, your character might just not go, as seen here with the box bridge in Ghost Town. But there are things you can do to fix this. Firstly, if you have the extra speed item, you can enable it, and simply walk over the gap. If you don't, hold down the tab key. This will speed up the emulator, and run against the gap. I also recommend spamming the charge button as you do this. You should be able to clear the gap in a few seconds. This will also happen to certain items next to walls, like this blue crystal seen in G4. Same thing, tab and ram into it. You won't have to do this that often, but it does happen. I haven't actually beat the game with this code yet, but I've played up to Sky Dominion with only these minimal issues. I will make a community announcement if I stumble upon anything new, but so far it's extremely manageable. And there you go. Now we can play Gauntlet with HD graphics, 1440p, and 60 FPS. At least, by ourselves. But what if we want to play online with friends? There are two proven safe methods to do this. You can use Dolphin's built-in Netplay servers, or you can use a program called Parsec. We'll set up both, and discuss the pros and cons of each. Dolphin has its own server that allows players to connect and join others in-game. To do this, firstly everyone needs their own copy of the game and the emulator. The emulator builds and the game revs must match. So if you did all the mods such as the 1.3, all of the players will have to go through the same process. Not the AR codes or the texture packs, just the raw ISO. You also can't netplay the open directory, so you'll have to convert it to an ISO like I showed before. In Dolphin Netplay, the host creates a session in which other players join. The other players will have access to the host's current memory card, where they can save and load their character. They will also have every AR and Gecko code that the host has enabled, assuming the setting is enabled. If you are creating a new session for the first time, you want to open your Dolphin, and go to Tools, then click Start Netplay. Make sure the server type is set to Transversal, and you can set your name here. This is the name that will display in the Netplay hub. On the Host tab, I'd click the Show in Server browser box, and set your region, name of the server, and if you want, a password. If you don't want a password, leave it blank. If you want, you can select Gauntlet from this list, then click Host. But I have a different method that I prefer. Once you've gotten your names and server regions as such, I'd close this. Right-click your game, and select Host with Netplay. This will pop up a Netplay hub hosting the game. Once this is open, other players can connect to your lobby. I suggest going to Data first, and ensure that Load and Write host data is on. This allows players to save their games on your memory card, and make sure Sync AR and Gecko Codes is on, and strict settings sync. To join a game, the easiest way in my opinion is to use the server list. Go to Tools, and then browse Netplay sessions. This will display every game on right now. Find your friend's game on the list, and click Join. A common error you might get is this Can't Connect to Host. This means your internet is blocking the connection. The most common culprit is a VPN. have everyone turn off their VPNs. It's also possible you have to enable Dolphin Emulator on your internet firewall. Once a player connects, they will display on the player list. It will tell you if the ISOs match, the ping, the Dolphin build, and the player mapping, as in who will be player 1, 2, etc. To change those, go to Assign Controller Ports, and from here, you can set which slot everyone is in. The host will also have the start and buffer controls. The buffer can be used to reduce lag, but a high buffer will also cause controller input delay. I suggest starting at 10 and adjusting as needed. Once everyone is in, press start and the game will begin. Your friends can press start, create a character, and you should be good to go. Cons of the Netplay. The biggest issue with the Netplay is setting it up the first time. Once everybody has it, it's pretty easy to connect and play. But ensuring everyone has the right copy of the game, especially if you mod it, can be tedious. Also, if one person's internet is poor, it will drag down the entire session for everyone. Long distance can be hard, as that extra latency can make steady gameplay difficult. It's not that bad if they have good internet, but it's something to consider. Also, depending on the equipment, not every player can get the same experience from the game. Let's say the host is playing with texture pack with 4K. The other players won't see that unless their Dolphin has the same settings. And even then, their PC might not be able to handle the same way. This just means not everybody's game will look the same on their end, which can be annoying if you're trying to showcase something like a texture pack. I've netplayed several times with members of the Gauntlet community with no problem, but recently I've been preferring another method of playing online. Parsec. If you don't know what Parsec is, it's like a screen sharing app for gamers, allowing people to connect to you and use their controller on your machine. Parsec is proven safe as files do not transfer during connection. Think of it as the digital equivalent of going to your friend's house with your controller, plugging it into their PC, and playing together. You get the same perks as them, being able to see the same screen with the same strengths and display settings. I actually recommend Parsec over Netplaying if you have mods on your game for this reason. Only the host needs to have Gauntlet set up, with everybody else only needing Parsec and a controller. To set up Parsec, you and everybody you want to play with need to go download it from the official site and make an account. It's free, but if you're concerned about using your email, I suggest a burner or a pseudo email just for this. Once everyone has their account set up, you need to friend the host. In the top right corner is your Parsec name. All joining players need to click on the friend button, and then add friend. Then type the name of the host. The host can then accept those invites to have them on their dashboard. Then, you need to make sure the controllers are configured. Go to the settings gear, and then go to gamepad. Make sure your controller is selected on the list, and press buttons to ensure that Parsec is reading it. All players should do this. Then, go back to computers. While Parsec is open, your PC is viewable on your friend's dashboard. Have them click connect under your PC. Once they do, the host will get a notification at the bottom saying a player wants to connect. Click accept, and the guest will be able to view your primary monitor. Have them press some buttons on their controller to make it viewable on the PC. The controller icon should flash green when an input is pressed. That means that they are connected properly. You can also enable mouse and keyboard inputs, but Gauntlet does not require that at all. After that, open Dolphin and go to controllers. You have to bind your friend's controllers to the emulator the same way you did setting it up. Set to standard controller, config, click your friend's controller on the list, and bind their buttons, and do for each player. After that, you can launch the game, and their inputs will register. Instead of a server, like Netplay, all the players are connecting to you, the host. So everything you can see on your screen, they can also see. So don't pull up anything you wouldn't want your friends to see. But this means that also, all of your graphics mods, texture packs, and all the cool client things you did to your game, they can also see and experience without having to download any of it themselves. Once you're done, guests can click the Parsec button on the screen and disconnect, or the host can kick them from the Parsec menu. And that's it. Once they're kicked, they're completely off your PC. The only main con with Parsec is it requires a stronger internet connection than the Dolphin Netplay, and having to make an account isn't the most fun thing. This is how I prefer to play with friends. Connecting is easier, and I don't have to worry about sharing around my mods if I decide to make or get a new one. And that should be it. Let us know in the comments if you run into any problems setting up any of this stuff, or if you have a question about the game or anything we didn't cover. We do plan on doing a video on the differences between the revs, so stay tuned for that if you care to know the differences between PS2, Xbox, and GC. But just so you know, if you followed this video, then you have the best one. And I guess that's it. Have fun on your legacy, mighty heroes.